I've got a brand new sight here from Dialed Archery. Let's open it up and take a look at it. Alright, I will zoom in and show you some of these features, but first thing that I just want to point out is it's definitely redesigned, a whole new sight. It moves so much better than the other one. I really like where the lock lever is. You can lock it down, easy to get to, and this wheel is a lot easier to move in my opinion. It just has a little deeper grooves, so it's easier to grab a hold of. Operates really nice. And I'll zoom in here and show you, but the one thing that I think is awesome is they labeled your first, second, and third axis screws. So if you're somebody who's setting this height up on your own, you know exactly where the screws are at because they're labeled and how to adjust them. So that's awesome. I'm glad that they actually labeled them, and it's going to make that a lot easier for the user, especially if you're the one setting up this sight. You got your first axis adjustment, second axis, which is screws on both sides. Screws on each side so you can adjust your second, micro adjust it. And then here you have your micro adjust windage. And then your elevation you're going to set with these two screws. And this slot will allow you to adjust your second axis. Right here you can see you have your third axis adjustment. And then you're going to lock this down, which is just going to help the sight from moving on you. So you should not have any problems with the sight moving on you. Right here you have the lock, so you can lock the windage down, and you can also just adjust this to adjust the tension a little bit. Nice thing that the Pruf has that the Arxos did not have is you can remove this screw and the bottom screw here, and you can change it from a Picatinny mount to the dovetail mount to the Matthews bridge lock mount. So it has all the different mounts that you could need. So if you ever switch bows, you can make sure that it still fits your bow. Coming over to here, you have changed dialed indicator marks. The other ones were just a little straight mark, whereas this one comes to a little more point. And you can add them to both sides, whichever one you want. And then you can also have sight tapes on each side. If you want to run a sight tape onto the outside, you can add extra indicator marks to the outside, which is a really nice option, especially if you want to run both sides for a tape. You can have them on each side so you can see it either side you're looking at. The grooves on the wheel are a little bit more redefined, so it's easier to grab a hold of. And I really like where they added the locking mechanism. It's easy to get to, especially when you're moving the dial anyway. You can easily flip it up with your fingers as you're grabbing the dial to move it. I really like that they still have the level on the top. You still get the sunshade, so you can brighten or darken your pins up very easily, or you can add a sight light if legal. And then there's one screw in here that you remove to switch out scope housing, so it's still really easy to do. I'll show you how to install this Dialed Pruf sight and how to level it. You'll need a 5/32 Allen wrench to get it set on the pick mount. So there's two different slots. I personally like going on the bottom one. That just helps me get the most range out of the sight. Alright, it's mounted on there and solid. Now I'm just going to go ahead and level my string up. Level got a little glue on there, but it is level. You can see your scope housing is off a ways. And I'll go ahead and throw one on the rail. Alright, so the rail is matching the sight, so we will see if they match each other. So if you look at your sight, it's going to have the first on each side, so that's going to adjust your first axis. So I'm going to start there and adjust it. Loosen this side up because I need to twist it. So I loosened the right side up if you're looking at the bow. And I am going to tighten up the left side. So you just have to loosen up and tighten till you get it exactly where you want it. So the first axis is set. Make sure you tighten up each side so it's locked in place and none of those screws will come loose. Now to adjust the second axis, you're going to tighten and loosen each side of this and then tighten them both up to make sure you're good. That you loosen the bottom screw here that's slotted so that way you can adjust it. Then go ahead and tighten this up once you're set. The rail is still perfectly level and the scope is perfectly level to the rail now. There is one screw here for the third axis adjustment. Go ahead and make that adjustment. It's really hard to find a perfect level spot. I've got my level on the string here. I've got a level right here on the riser, which is pretty close. It's off just a little bit, but I highly recommend you shoot in your third axis anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and tip the bow and check it. So I've got the level pretty much exactly how it was when it was upright, vertical, in the same position here. And it is dang close still. So I'm going to leave my third axis the exact same way it was, but you would just adjust this screw, the third axis screw, in and out to get your third axis adjusted perfectly to your bow. So what that is going to do, it's going to move your sight in or out, and it's just going to make sure that when you're shooting up or downhill that you're not missing to the left or right. The best way to shoot it in is to set a target uphill and downhill, make a perfectly level line, and shoot that line and see if you're consistently missing to the right or left. And that'll tell you, especially at extreme angles, it's going to make a lot bigger of a difference. But this is really close right out of the box, so you maybe might not have to even adjust it. I would still definitely try to at least shoot up and downhill and see if you're consistently missing left or right. It says right on here the third axis adjustment, so just move that screw in and out and see if that helps you. The sight's really easy to set up. I really like that everything's pretty micro adjust, just in and out, making sure that tighten one side, loosen the other side, and make sure they are both tight so they're not going to fall out on you. Easy to set up, and I really like that now you can adjust your sight up and down. I leveled it without sighting in my 20 yet. I will go ahead and sight 20 in, show you how to pick out a sight tape, and by moving it up and down, I want to see if that moves my level or if it stays really level. But I'm pretty set. I'm ready to go shoot it and pick out a sight tape. It's time to get this thing dialed in. So I'm going to set my top pin for 20 yards. I'm going to shoot at this. I'll show you how I got the target set up here in a second. But there's this bottom slotted screw and then the top one. You're going to loosen those up and slide it until that top pin is directly on 20. I'm going to go ahead and shoot at the target and see where I'm hitting, and then I'll slide the sight up or down depending on where my arrow's hitting. Make sure I'm right at 20. Okay. Actually pretty close here. I'll show you where that one ended up at. See, the arrow is just right below the tape line. So the reason why I put tape on there is that's going to be a perfect level tape line. So I hit just a little bit low, and so I need to move the sight down just a little bit. But the reason why I did this tape line is that's going to be a perfect level line, and by shooting at that, that's going to tell me I'm at the exact right height vertically. Because if you're shooting at a huge dot and you're hitting down and low into it, it's a little bit more room for your pin to float around, whereas this is going to be a nice solid line for me to aim at. The farther back I go, the more tape I'm going to add on, so it's still the same vertical or horizontal line, so I know that my elevation is right. So I'm going to go ahead and move the sight down just a little bit and shoot again. So I'm going to loosen up this bottom, or I think I actually loosen up this top screw here. And I left the bottom loose. So I'm going to just slide the sight down. So I went 2 notches there. Just going to snug that back up and try it again. Looks pretty darn close. I'm going to go ahead and grab that arrow and shoot it again and make sure. Okay. Highly recommend doing this when it's not super windy, but at 20 yards it's not as big a deal. I'm going to go up here and pull my arrow and show you. Alright, so this is my third arrow. First arrow was down here and the second one was up here. I split the difference right here and right here, so I'm good at 20. Like I said, I'm just more or less paying attention to the horizontal line and holding it on the tape. So I'm good now. I'm going to go ahead and go back, and with the dialed sight, you're going to go back as far as you can shoot it. And the more marks you make, you know, if your 30's right on, your 40's right on, and then you can just check those marks and make sure that that lines up with the perfect sight tape. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to jump straight back to 40, and that'll put me a little bit more out of the wind too. So that way I can just check and see how 40's hitting, and then I'll go back to about 60. Try 10. Try it again. That looked pretty darn good. Let's go take a look. All right, my first shot was down here. Now this is my second shot, so I'm going to call that good. I'm going to go ahead and just shoot one more arrow and see where it hits. All right, so 10 is about my perfect number. It maybe might be 10 and a half to 11, but I'm just going to go ahead just to show you if I went in between 10 and a half and 11, where that hits. I would say that is money, so I'm going to call that good. Just moving it just a smidge. Moved it up to where it's about perfect. I will shoot one more just to make sure. All right, so here is my second one. It's pretty dang close, so I would say, so if you start off, I actually started off with the sight on the 1 mark. So technically you should be right at the bottom of the test. So I should be in between 9.5 and 10. I'm gonna say probably right in between the two. Somewhere in there is where I'm at, so I'm just gonna say 9 so it's easier. I will mark it right at the 9.5 and transfer that line over. All right, now it's time to go back to 60. I'm gonna see how it's gonna look, but I'm probably just gonna go ahead and add another piece of tape so it gives me a little bit better horizontal line to focus on. That'll just give me just a little bit more to see at 60. Let's run back to 60. All right, now I am back at 60 yards. I'm just gonna start off at 20 and see where that hits. It's probably gonna be a little low, but I will check it out. Definitely low. All right, so 60, I'm way down here. I'm gonna try about 23 probably. Pretty close. So I put it at 20, be 22. Go ahead and check it out. All right, so I'm just right down here. Let's move it down to 23 and just see what that does. Probably be up a little bit, but try it and see what happens. Look pretty close. All right, that one felt pretty good. Let's go check it out. All right, so this is my last arrow. I'm right at 24 on the sight tape. So what I'll end up doing is matching up 9.5 and 24 on an actual sight tape from that scale and see where that matches up. I'll go ahead and show you that now. I'm definitely not the world's best archer. This is just a quick rundown on how to do it. But I highly recommend putting the horizontal level lines on your target and shooting at that. What I'm going to do now is put a level horizontal line on here so that way I can get my left and right set. I'll show you that quick, but that has nothing to do with the sight tape. I just wanted to find my elevations so I can get a sight tape. So that is how you do it. I will show you now picking the sight tape and just getting my left and right set, which is pretty easy on the sight. So I'm going to go ahead and tape up a level line vertically now. All right, I'll go back to probably 40 yards and I will shoot at this just to see where I'm hitting. I just feel a little bit more comfortable at 40 with one single tape, and that's just going to be a little bit more accurate. Don't forget to move your sight back to whatever elevation you're going to for this. Like I said, now I'm just going to try to get my windage set. Actually pretty close. One close way to do it is just put your string right in the center of the riser, and then just make sure that your pins are covered up with your string so you can just kind of eyeball it. That's a good starting point. But go check that. That actually looks really close. Just to the right of it, just a smidge. I'm going to go ahead and shoot another one, see where it hits. Okay, if I tried that again, that is really good. I'm good with that. I will do a little bit more shooting in with an actual broadhead and everything to get it sighted in, but this is enough to give you an idea. All you would have to do is there's a micro adjust windage on there. Just adjust that and you'll be good to go. I'll have another video showing how to do the third axis, because that's another video just in itself, and that's going to take a little bit more setup because I really want to have a really inclined hill to show you that. It's really important to get it set up, especially if you're shooting, if you're going to go hunting in the mountains, or if you're shooting really high elevation out of a stand or something like that. If you're shooting a lot of flat land, it probably won't matter as much, but it is important to check that, especially if you're buying this expensive sight. I highly recommend doing that. I will get that video done and post it in the description of this video. So go check that one out if you're wanting to see how to do your third axis. It's going to be a whole separate video. I've got this bow sighted in now for 20, 40, and 60 yards. I'm going to go ahead and remove the sight ring. I did double check it. The sight rail was still level even after moving it up and down to get my 20 set, and it's still really good. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the sight tape ring, and then go ahead and show you which sight tape and how I chose them. So there's one screw that holds it on. You're just going to loosen that Allen screw and slide it off. So there's one screw that holds the ring on. You're just going to loosen that screw and pull it off. And you can mark the sight tape if you really want to, then you know you're kind of putting it on the exact same spot, but it's not going to matter just as long as your sight tape doesn't go over the Allen screw. The one thing you're going to want to make sure is that your indicator mark is right on the top or the bottom of the test line here, so right onto the black there. And when you remove it and put the new one on, you're going to make sure that indicator lines up in the exact same spot. So we'll go ahead and remove the calibration sight tape. So what I've done is I transferred my sight in lines from sighting in to this calibration tape. And now I'm just going to try to find the right sight tape. So I line up the 20 and see what 40 and 60 line up. You might be just a hair off. It's going to be really tough to be very close, but this will give you a really good indication and be really close. So 12 looks like my number. The nice thing about these is they're already actually pre-cut. So all I got to do is take them off and transfer them onto the sight ring. Okay, so like I said, I'm number 12. Just lining that up with where it was before. Just try to get it on there as straight as possible. There you have it. So now I've got my sight tape set up. I'm ready to go, and I will shoot it in, and as you're shooting it in, you can move your other indicators to whatever yardage they match up with as you're shooting. I will show you making sure that it's the right sight tape, and then also making sure to set the other indicators. So this top indicator, I want to make sure lines up directly on the 20. So that looks pretty good there. And now I'll just tighten it up. So that is snug and on there really well. I'm just going to go ahead. I left the test strip on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and just check it to make sure that this is rolling out about perfect. So that is about right at 60, and I am about perfect right there. So that calibrated really good. The nice part is you can still leave the test strip on, so you could make your marks onto the test strip and then leave that on one side and then run the sight tape on the other. But like I said, you're going to have to get extra indicators and an extra sight tapes if you want to run sight tapes on both sides. Go ahead and go out to the field now and shoot it in and make sure everything's good. Go ahead and double check and make sure my sight tape's right. Go check that out. Here, so I'd say we are good to go. Like I said, it's nice too because you can also leave that calibration sight tape on and just double check and make sure both are pretty much right on. So shooting really good there. No problems with that. We're good to go. Now all I'm going to do is figure out what the other two set pins are. So I use my top for the slider, and the other ones you can just move the markers to, and they will work for sliders as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and see where my other pins are set for. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my sight is all the way back up. So I'm at 20 at the top. And now I will figure out where my second pin is. I'm going to just try it at 40. I think it might be just a hair low, but give it a shot. It's probably going to be more like 35 or something. Yeah, that's way low. So I'm going to run up to maybe about 30, I guess, and try it. Or maybe 35. Just high at 35. $36 it is. So at 35 I was up here, 36 is down here, 37 is going to be down even farther, so it's pretty much right at 36. Go ahead and I'll set that indicator for 36. Now I just got to figure out where the bottom pin is at. I'm just going to start off at 48 yards. Shot broke really well. See where that's at. I don't think I could get that lucky again. That is dead center. I'm going to go ahead and go back and shoot it once more just to double check it, but I would say 48 it is. I would say I definitely held my elevation pretty well. It's pretty windy, so I was moving back and forth a little bit. Shot broke pretty well again. I would say 48 is right on target. So for elevation wise, that arrow looks good. I'm just going to shoot another one just for the fun of it to double check. So here we go. This is my third shot. I'm going to call it 48 because if I move a yard either way, it's going to be a little bit different. Because one more yard farther, it's definitely going to drop down ways. One more yard up, it's going to be off by a little bit. So 48 is pretty much it. So I got 20. So I got 20, 36, and 48. Not actually too bad of a spread. I'm used to 20, 30, 40, so I'm going to have to get used to that being a little different. But like I said, I still have that top pin. That's a slider, so I can move it to the exact yardage. I'll go ahead and show moving those. Got them set already, but there's that little screw here. You're going to loosen it up. And then you can slide each individual one to the right spot. So I got 36, or 20, 36, and 48. You slide them by hand. They are a little bit tough to move, which is kind of nice so they won't fall on you. Then you tighten that screw back up, and they are set in place and ready to go. I know this was kind of a longer video, but I really hope this helps you see the full setup of this sight and really helps you get it dialed in perfectly. I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. It helps my channel grow and get out there to more people to help them become better archers or help them find the gear that might fit them the best. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. As always, stay hidden and good luck out there.